And here we are playing something I can't remember to pronounce if I don't see the word. Cynoscephalae. And probably get wrong anyway. And this was another one of those shortened die roll of doom turns. Romans moved this one, got it back in column and moved this one force forward. This guy pushed some of his lights forward to screen. Then we went over to him. He ran back, joined his cav. He was kicking around here and moved these hoplites forward to help extend the line. What he wanted to do was push forward and hit these cav, drive them away, and get dominance in a way that, by exposing these hoplites, he's kind of threatened. He also would have liked to have a continuation so he could slide his cav forward. But instead what happened was he got a die roll of doom. It ended up with a 9 afterwards. And bang, it's the turnover. He'll get to move again probably before these, so he can push his cav forward. Unless of course somebody trumps in, but that seems pretty unlikely. So it worked out okay for him, but it did kind of end the turn. And you know what we do have to worry about is if anything's routed. These guys didn't move. I just didn't take care of them from last turn. The same with this. It was a pain. And there is indeed at least one routed thing, which has got to keep running. Alright. Well, opening things up with the new turn. Yeah, the Macedonians end up moving forward here as we see kind of the light line being formed up here, these being pushed forward. But the attack came from this prefect cortum here on what was kind of a ragged line that I wanted to dress of phalanxes. But a ragged line of phalanxes faced by phalanxes is fine. Faced by Roman legionaries is not so fine because they can slip in and cut and grab the flank spaces, or any one hex units really. And what we saw was two units that couldn't even retreat from combat after they got hit. Two big phalanxes gone. That's going to be a lot of points off the Macedonian total. That's they're 14 each. That's 28 points. That's going to put them at 71. They're almost ready. You know, they're like almost 2/3 of the way into breaking, and they're just failing to deploy here. There's not going to be anything here, and this Roman force is going to be able to swing into play. On the flank there, rolling up the better deployed forces. So the Romans don't have to do a hell of a lot. They just have to kind of deploy against these, pin them in place, and swing in. And all this stuff back here, totally unimportant. They're going to break the main line. Alright. And Tribune Magnus here basically managed to run the table. He moved forward, got an attack in initially. Then there was, well, actually, before he even moved, I believe Nicanor made an attempt to trump in, failed, and thereby lost any activity. And he just was able to blast through. Two more phalanx units have been destroyed. So now we're at 56. That puts us to 99. We're almost over the edge. And he drove away the remaining unit from there. There's just nothing up here. That whole scenario I just painted is happening now. Alright. Here at the end of the turn we see some Roman cav actually pursued another Macedonian cav off the board, but one of the Romans also got destroyed. Not sure how that happened. Not sure what finished him off. I don't know what hit him. Oh, a failed rally attempt. Okay. Yeah, see, I didn't think the Macedonians had gotten a good attack off. At this point, Philip's beginning to bring some forces into a coherent line, or at least forming one up. We'll see if the Romans can take advantage of it early enough. Some of their troops are a little tired. They pushed them kind of hard to break those phalanxes. If they push them much harder, they may see their entire line just collapse from fatigue, really. So if those numbers start getting too high, I'm probably not going to want to try to rush things. But if I don't manage to rush things, there's going to be a significant line there that has to be dealt with, which causes problems. Of course, on the other side, we've got 14, 28, 35 points here, which puts this to 78, which means there's a lot of leeway to play with, because this is only at 36, and the Romans need less points to finish off. Plus, they still haven't brought a lot of their forces into play, including the Triarii line. So it's looking, you know, pretty one-sided still. It's just the Macedonians may be able to put up something of a resistance, which they absolutely were not able to do here. Well, I learned my lesson. Of course, this is a lesson the Macedonian general Philip would have known anyhow, right? He wouldn't have blundered about throwing his troops forward without a screen, etc. But the Romans are moving forward under the cover of their light screen. The light screen's moved up. Everything perfect here. Here, I've got some in-column units. Look kind of exposed, but it's going to be tough for the Macedonians to take advantage of it. They'll have to double time or whatever to do it. The point here is sometimes you see these games where one side or another makes these tremendous blunders. And you would say, well, a player would never do that. Well, here we've just seen this player, at least, manages it every now and then. In a serious opposed game, people would generally not allow something like this to happen. They'd say, oh, no, it didn't happen. In a lot of those games where someone historically made an error, there aren't tremendous controls to force the player to be as stupid as, you know, his historical counterpart was. Well, I manage it every now and then, and it's kind of impressive when it happens, you know. I mean, you read about these things and say, wow, no player would ever do that. Well, here a player just did, right? I mean, I advanced without my screen because it seemed like a cool idea. I could get my heavy units up there first. I was in a race to get that hill. Well, we see those screens are very, very important in these meeting engagements. When are they not terribly important? Well, in the battles that we have set up already, these set-piece battles where this whole screen of, say, skirmishers or whatever is in place, they're just at best a speed bump, and maybe not even a terribly valuable one, but they've already served their purpose in screening the formation of that large force. And here we're seeing why it happens. What we're never seeing in the games before, or in most of the games, is why they're there with the army. Why did Hannibal carry those there? Well, here's one example of why. They do serve an important purpose so that they can protect the formations as they're getting set up, especially with those big phalanxes. With the Romans, the Velites probably aren't so important, but the Velites are a pretty decent fighting force on their own, so you don't want to completely exclude them. I don't mind them because they brush aside those skirmishers kind of nicely. I would rather go with them and then peel them off, pull them back with that nice flexible structure that the Romans have, and hit with the heavier stuff again and again. Alright. Okay, so here we are at the end of the next turn, and really seeing the Macedonians beginning to build up a line here. It's not perfect. There's a leader here. There's a bit of a hole here, just a skirmisher holding a line here. It's definitely a threat, and I could easily see that the Romans are going to have... One of two things is going to happen. Either the Romans have an opportunity to smack into some flanks, and they may have to kind of make that opportunity by shoving those skirmishers out of the way. Or I think the Macedonians are going to have to try a trump and try to get in there. Neither one's a pleasing view. The Macedonians have done very poorly with the trumps. We see these hoplites starting to march forward. Flaminius has not been able to bring his reinforcements on the board. He's too far away from the edge of the board now. But he wants to kind of push these other units. I mean, the Triarii line is pretty much useless to him, so in some senses, he might want to go up and help the troops that are actually fighting this battle, but also pushing these reserves forward might be of some use. Over here, we see the Macedonian hoplites climbed up the hill. They went into column and came out of column to do this. It kind of puts them in a position where they're putting a little bit of threat on that Roman flank. Going to have to deploy these guys pretty quickly. The Macedonian cav have largely driven off the Romans here. There's one unit that just routed and rallied, but the Roman leader has gone back to go get his cav. Or one of the Roman cav leaders has gone back to go get the cav that's left the board. The Macedonians don't have that kind of advantage because they don't have these specific cav leaders that they can afford to just say, hey, you know, I got 2 cav leaders in 1 cav unit. There's not a lot I can do with these leaders. Let's send him off. They've got leaders with so many units that they have to chase things down that to just grab 1 cav unit, it's a hard call for them. They're having enough trouble positioning the units they have and getting the trumps they need. Of course, sending someone like this guy who's not terribly effective does kind of make sense, but not while he's got a couple cav units under his command and nobody else does. Nobody else has that command. So, got another situation with another skirmisher charging forward. Just doing a little bit of harassment to the Romans, trying to make it a little harder on their lives, that's all. Alright. Onward we go. Well, the battle's continuing to develop. We see the Macedonian... Well, first of all, the Roman center moved some of their lights forward. Skirmisher up to deal with this skirmisher. Some of the lights forward just to throw javelins at the phalanxes. Now, the phalanxes are probably going to break rank and attack. They can't just stand there and suffer that all the time. But that will shift them forward, and that's kind of painful. They have to redress their line. They might have to recover a little bit during that interim. Then you think the cohort might hit. At the same time, though, this guy over here launched his cav again and failed to break the Roman cav at this point. They're still stuck there fighting. They can't do much about it. They're stuck receiving rear attacks, which is painful. It's just part of the system that's kind of weird compared to most games. And then this heavy infantry slammed into the flank of one of the legionary units. However, these hoplites are in a lot of trouble because they're seeing a column of Romans coming forward. There was kind of the hope of 1, 2, 3, 4 of being able to hit this and maybe get more actions. Well, that's not going to happen now. Okay, well, here we're at the end of yet another turn. And what we see is that Philip's managed to actually push back with quite a bit of force, driven a couple of these Romans routing. We're going to see him falling back further because we are at the end of the turn and I haven't done the bookkeeping there. Cav knocked this guy back again, and he's going to be flying back as well. He gets a chance to rally. One leader with one horse. Pretty good chance that he at least gets a roll, but he's only a 3-point leader, so there's a good chance he might also just destroy the unit. See the line beginning to form up across here. Not exactly the ideal line for the Macedonians, but it's a workable thing. Sending some lighter troops around to take the flank and help protect that. Meanwhile, over here, you know, it looks pretty good, except there's a lot of Roman weight here that's not counterbalanced, and I'm afraid these hoplites aren't going to be able to hold up against that many legions. And these legions haven't been hit yet. It's just the lighter Greek auxiliaries that have been driven away very easily. So, what looks like kind of an advantage for the Macedonians isn't really as impressive as you'd think. The Triarii line finally came onto the board. Got them, the hoplites, kind of going to form reserves. If need be, they can be pushed in, but it's very unlikely. And these lighter forces and the elephants, haven't really found a use for them yet. There is this big hole here. The Roman unit here has been rallying. It should be taking up some position there. The elephants maybe have their work cut out for them going after the heavy cav here, and send some of the velites up to handle the lighter forces on the flank there. But this is, so far doesn't look like there's going to be a huge outflank. We'll see. This might do it. Alright, up it goes. Oh, we also got some losses here. A couple of Romans took it. I don't see anybody leaving the board this turn, so I'll just record them. That puts Rome up to 46. Still not at the level Carthage is at, but you know, it doesn't look as hopeless as it did a moment ago. I still don't think, sorry, not Carthage, the Macedonians. Still don't think the Macedonians have a shot here.